Martha's hands shook as she watched Daniel throw clothes into his suitcase. Each shirt he tossed felt like a door slamming shut on her heart. "Please," she whispered, "don't do this." Daniel didn't even look at her. He just kept packing, his jaw tight, his eyes cold. Behind Martha, her two daughters stood frozen in the doorway. Leah, the older one, held little Rose's hand. Both girls had tears running down their faces. "Daddy," Rose's small voice broke the silence. "Where are you going?" Daniel zipped his suitcase with a sharp sound. Finally, he turned around, but his eyes didn't have any warmth in them. No love, no sadness, nothing. "I'm leaving," he said flatly. "I'm done with this life, done with all of you." Martha felt like someone had punched her in the stomach. How could he say that? How could he look at his own children and say such cruel words? "But what about us?" Martha asked, her voice cracking. "What are we supposed to do?" Daniel laughed. It was a mean, ugly sound that made Martha's skin crawl. "That's not my problem anymore," he said. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. He threw it at Martha's feet like it was garbage. "There, that's for you." Martha bent down slowly and picked up the paper. Her fingers trembled as she unfolded it. It was a deed, a property deed. "What is this?" she asked. "That," Daniel said with a nasty smile, "is my father's old farmhouse. You know, the one nobody wanted, the one that's been rotting in the middle of nowhere for years. It's yours now. Congratulations." Martha stared at the paper. She remembered that house. Daniel had taken her there once, years ago, before they got married. It had been abandoned for so long. Broken windows, falling apart roof, weeds everywhere. "You're giving me a ruined house?" Martha's voice was barely a whisper. "I'm being generous," Daniel sneered. "Most men would leave their wives with nothing. At least you'll have a roof over your head. Well, whatever's left of the roof, anyway." He picked up his suitcase and walked toward the door. Martha's whole body felt frozen. This couldn't be happening. This couldn't be real. Daniel stopped at the doorway and looked back at her one last time. His smile was cruel. "Let's see how long you last without me, Martha. I give you a month before you come crawling back, begging me to take you in. But guess what? I won't be there." Then he was gone. The door slammed shut behind him, and Martha heard his car start outside. The engine roared, and then the sound faded away into nothing. Silence filled the house. Rose started crying harder. Leah wrapped her arms around her little sister, tears streaming down her own face. Martha wanted to cry too. She wanted to fall on the floor and scream and ask God why this was happening. But she couldn't. Her daughters needed her to be strong. She walked over to her girls and pulled them both into a tight hug. "It's going to be okay," she whispered, even though she didn't know if that was true. "Mama's going to take care of you. I promise." That night, Martha couldn't sleep. She sat at the kitchen table, staring at the deed by candlelight. Their electricity had been shut off 2 days ago because Daniel hadn't paid the bill. He'd spent the money on gambling instead. She read the words on the paper over and over. The farmhouse was 2 hours away from the city, in a tiny village she'd never heard of. Nobody lived nearby. The house had been empty for almost 20 years. Why would Daniel give her this? Was it really just to hurt her? To humiliate her one last time? Martha looked around their small apartment. Daniel owned this place, not her. The landlord was his friend. She couldn't stay here. She had no money, no job, no family to help her. Her parents had died years ago, and she'd lost touch with her friends after marrying Daniel. He'd made sure of that. The farmhouse was all she had. 2 days later, Martha loaded everything she'd fit into an old borrowed truck. A kind neighbor, Mrs. Chun, had offered to drive them to the village. The woman didn't ask questions. She just helped. Martha didn't have much to pack. Some clothes, a few dishes, blankets, a box of her daughter's toys. That was it. That was all that was left of her life. The drive felt like it took forever. Rose fell asleep against Martha's shoulder. Leah stared out the window, quiet and sad. Martha's heart felt heavy as stone. Finally, Mrs. Chun turned down a long, bumpy dirt road. Trees grew thick on both sides, their branches reaching across like twisted arms. The road got worse and worse, full of holes and rocks. Then Martha saw it, the farmhouse. Her stomach dropped. It was worse than she remembered. So much worse. The roof sagged in the middle like a broken back. Half the windows were shattered, their glass scattered on the ground like sharp tears. The wooden walls were gray and rotting. The front porch steps were cracked and dangerous looking. Tall weeds and wild bushes surrounded the house, making it look like the earth was trying to swallow it whole. Mrs. Chen stopped the truck and stared. Even she looked shocked. "Martha," she said softly, "are you sure about this?" Martha swallowed hard. No, she wasn't sure. She was terrified, but she had no choice. "Yes," Martha said, her voice stronger than she felt. "This is our home now." They climbed out of the truck. Leah gasped when she saw the house up close. Rose started crying again. "Mama, it's scary," Rose whimpered. Martha picked up her daughter and held her close. "It just needs some love, baby. We can fix it together." As they stood there, Martha noticed people watching from the road. Villagers. 3 women and an old man stood near their own houses, staring. Their faces showed pity. Doubt. Some of them whispered to each other. Martha lifted her chin. She wouldn't let them see her fear. Mrs. Chen helped them unload their few belongings. When everything was out, the kind woman hugged Martha tight. "You're braver than you know," Mrs. Chen whispered. "Good luck." Then she drove away, and Martha was alone with her daughters and the broken house. That first night was the hardest night of Martha's life. The house was freezing cold. Wind whistled through the broken windows. Strange sounds came from everywhere, creaking, groaning, scratching sounds that made Rose cry and Leah hold Martha's hand tight. They had no electricity, no running water. Martha lit the one candle she brought, and the tiny flame made huge shadows dance on the cracked walls. The 3 of them huddled together on the floor, wrapped in all their blankets. Martha couldn't stop shaking, but she didn't know if it was from cold or fear. "Mama?" Leah whispered in the dark. "Are we going to be okay?" Martha looked at her daughter's frightened face in the candlelight. She thought about Daniel's cruel words. She thought about the villagers' pitying stares. She thought about how broken and hopeless everything seemed. But then she felt Rose's small hand in hers. She felt Leah's head resting on her shoulder. Her daughters needed her. They were depending on her. "Yes," Martha said firmly. "We're going to be okay. Better than okay. You'll see." She didn't know how yet. But as she lay there in that cold, dark, broken house, Martha made herself a promise. She would not give up. She would not let Daniel win. Tomorrow, she would start exploring every inch of this house. Maybe, just maybe, there was something here worth saving. She had no idea how right she was. Morning light crept through the broken windows like shy fingers. Martha opened her eyes and felt every muscle in her body ache. She'd barely slept. Rose and Leah were still curled up beside her, breathing softly. For a moment, Martha just watched them sleep. They looked peaceful, safe. She would do anything to keep them that way. Carefully, Martha stood up. Her knees cracked. The floor was covered in dust and dirt. She looked around the room in the daylight and almost cried. The walls had huge cracks running through them. The ceiling had water stains. In the corner, she could see daylight through a hole in the roof. But Martha took a deep breath. "No crying," she whispered to herself. "Crying won't fix anything." She found an old broom in what used to be a closet. The bristles were half gone, but it would work. Martha started sweeping, pushing years of dust and leaves toward the door. An hour later, Rose woke up. Then Leah. Both girls looked around with big, worried eyes. "Morning, my loves," Martha said, trying to sound cheerful. "Who wants to help Mama clean our new house?" Rose's bottom lip trembled. "I'm hungry." Martha's heart squeezed. She'd packed some bread and cheese, but it wasn't much. They'd need to figure out food soon. Money soon. Everything soon. "Let's eat breakfast first," Martha said. "Then we'll make this place beautiful. You'll see." After their small meal, Leah found another old broom. Rose used her hands to pick up the bigger pieces of trash. Together, they worked. Martha's hands got cut from picking up broken glass. Her back screamed in pain from bending over. But she kept going. She was sweeping near the fireplace when she heard it. A hollow sound. Martha stopped. She tapped her foot on the floor. Most of the boards made a solid thud. But this one spot sounded different. Empty underneath. "Girls," Martha called. "Come here for a second." Leah and Rose hurried over. Martha knelt down and ran her fingers along the floorboards. One board looked different from the others. Newer, maybe, or replaced. "Help me move this," Martha said. Her fingers found an edge. She pulled. The board was loose. It lifted up easily, like someone had removed it many times before. And underneath, in the dark space between the floor and the ground, was a metal box. Martha's breath caught in her throat. What in the world? She reached down and pulled the box up. It was heavy, solid, old, covered in dust but not rusted. "What is it, Mama?" Rose asked, her eyes wide. "I don't know, baby." Martha's hand shook as she tried to open the box. There was a simple latch, no lock. She flipped it open. Papers. The box was full of papers. Martha pulled them out one by one. Bank documents, certificates, property papers, and underneath everything a letter. The paper was yellow with age, but the handwriting was clear and careful. Martha unfolded the letter. At the top it said, "To whoever finds this." She began to read out loud, her voice shaking. "My name is Robert Grant. If you're reading this, I am probably dead. This farmhouse was my home for 40 years. I love this place more than anything, except for my son, Daniel." Martha's heart stopped. Daniel. This was written by Daniel's father. She kept reading. "My son never understood why I loved this old house. He wanted money and city life. We fought about it for years. When he left, he swore he'd never come back. He said this place was worthless. A grave, he called it. The grave of his childhood. But my son was wrong. This house is not worthless. And I want the truth to be known. Hidden in this box are papers that show the real value of this property. Years ago, I bought not just this house, but all the land around it. 200 acres. I also put money away in a special bank account, only in my name. The account number is on the papers in this box. There is enough money to fix this house 10 times over. Enough to live on for years. Enough to start a new life. I never told Daniel about any of this. He made his choice. He wanted nothing to do with me or this place. So I made my choice too. I'm leaving everything to whoever finds this box. Whoever cares enough about this old house to look beneath the surface. Whoever sees value where others see ruin. If you found this, then you deserve it. The house is yours. The land is yours. The money is yours. Everything is yours now. All the legal papers are here. Take them to George Miller, the lawyer in town. He knows about this. He helped me set it up. He'll make sure everything transfers to you properly. Build a good life here. Love this place the way I did. That's all I ask. Sincerely, Robert Grant. Martha's hands were shaking so hard she almost dropped the letter. She read it again, then a third time. This couldn't be real. It couldn't be. "Mama?" Leah touched her arm. "What does it say?" Martha looked at her daughters. Tears were rolling down her face now, but they weren't sad tears. They were something else. Something she hadn't felt in so long. "Hope," it says. Martha's voice cracked. "It says everything is going to be okay." She dug through the papers with trembling fingers. Bank statements, property deeds, all in Robert Grant's name. There were instructions, account numbers, everything organized and clear. The old man had planned this. He'd set up the secret inheritance for whoever would care about his beloved house. And Daniel had given it away. He'd thrown it at Martha's feet, like trash, never knowing what his father had hidden here. Martha started laughing. She couldn't help it. She laughed until tears streamed down her face. Rose and Leah looked at her like she'd gone crazy. "Mama?" Rose asked nervously. Martha pulled both girls into her arms and squeezed them tight. My darlings, we'll be okay. Better than okay. We're going to have a real home. A beautiful home. Our home. That afternoon, Martha walked into the village. She carried a metal box under her arm like it was made of gold. People stared at her as she passed. She heard their whispers. That's the woman from the old Grant place. Poor thing, trying to live in that dump. She won't last a week. Martha ignored them. She asked directions and found the lawyer's office. George Miller was an old man with kind eyes and white hair. When Martha showed him the papers, his eyes went wide. My goodness, he breathed. He really did it. Robert really set this up. I helped him, you know, but I never knew if anyone would ever find it. Is it real? Martha asked, afraid to believe it. Is this really legal? Mr. Miller put on his glasses and examined every paper carefully. He looked at the deeds. He made phone calls. He checked documents. Finally, after what felt like hours, he looked at Martha with a huge smile. Mrs. Grant, or, well, you don't have to use that name anymore if you don't want to, but yes, this is completely real and completely legal. Robert Grant set this up years ago. Everything transfers to the person who finds these papers. That's you. He spread the documents across his desk. You now own the farmhouse and 200 acres of land around it. You have full access to a bank account with. He checked the paper. Enough money to live comfortably for many years. Maybe forever if you're careful with it. Martha couldn't breathe. I own it. All of it. All of it, Mr. Miller confirmed. Your husband gave you the property deed, which means he transferred legal ownership to you. He had no idea what he was giving away. But it's yours now, fair and square. Martha thought about Daniel's cruel smile, his mocking voice. Let's see how long you last without me. Oh, Daniel, if only you knew. She thought about him gambling away their money, abandoning his family, calling this house worthless. And now it was hers. Everything was hers. Thank you, Martha whispered to Mr. Miller. Then she looked up at the ceiling and whispered again, Thank you, Robert. Martha walked back to the farmhouse as the sun began to set. This time, when villagers stared, she smiled at them, let them stare, let them wonder. When she got home, Rose and Leah were waiting on the porch steps. Well, Leah asked nervously. Martha dropped the box, grabbed both her daughters, and spun them around. It's ours, she cried. The house, the land, everything. We're going to fix this place up and make it the most beautiful home anyone has ever seen. That night, Martha lit their candle and looked around the broken house with new eyes. Yes, the walls were cracked. Yes, the roof leaked. Yes, there was so much work to do. But this wasn't a grave anymore. This wasn't Daniel's cruel joke. This was her second chance, her new beginning, her future. In the morning, she would start repairs. She would hire help. She would turn this broken old farmhouse into a home filled with love and laughter. Martha picked up a hammer she'd found in the shed. She walked to a broken board on the wall, and with all her strength, she pulled out the first rotten nail. We're not just surviving any more, girls, Martha said. We're building something beautiful. Just watch. 6 months changed everything. Martha stood on her front porch, watching the sun rise over her land. Her land. Those words still made her smile. The farmhouse didn't look broken anymore. The roof was fixed, solid and strong. New windows sparkled in the morning light. Fresh paint covered the walls, a soft yellow color that reminded Martha of hope. The porch had been rebuilt, and now it had a swing where Rose liked to sit with her dolls. Around the house, Leah's vegetable garden grew thick and green. Tomatoes hung heavy on their vines. Carrots pushed up through the dark soil. Rose had planted flowers everywhere, wild colors that danced in the breeze like happy children. But the biggest change wasn't the house. It was Martha herself. She stood taller now. Her eyes had a strength they'd never had before. Her hands, rough from work, were hands that had built something real, something that belonged to her and no one else. The villagers had changed too. They didn't whisper and stare anymore. Now they waved. They stopped to chat. They brought fresh bread and asked if Martha needed anything. Old Mrs. Patterson from down the road had become a good friend. "You're an inspiration," she told Martha just last week. "You showed us all what real strength looks like." Martha had hired some local men to help with the big repairs. They'd been skeptical at first, wondering if she could really pay them. But when she did, on time, every time, they became her biggest supporters. "Never seen anyone work as hard as you, Miss Martha," Tom the carpenter had said. "You're out here hammering and painting right alongside us. Most folks with money just sit back and watch." But Martha couldn't just sit back. This was her home. Every nail she drove and felt like she was building her own strength. Every wall she painted felt like she was painting over the past. The house had become more than wood and nails. It was proof that she could survive, proof that she could thrive, proof that Daniel had been wrong about everything. One evening, as the fireflies started dancing in the twilight, Martha sat on her porch swing with her daughters. Rose's head rested in her lap. Leah sat close, reading a book by lantern light. "Mama?" Rose asked sleepily. "Are you happy now?" Martha stroked her daughter's hair and smiled. "Yes, baby, I really am." And she was. For the first time in years, maybe for the first time ever, Martha felt truly at peace. She wasn't afraid anymore. She wasn't small anymore. She had found something inside herself she didn't know existed. Strength, real strength. The kind that doesn't come from someone else. The kind you build yourself brick by brick, nail by nail. If you're inspired by Martha's journey of resilience and transformation, don't forget to share this story with someone who needs hope today. And subscribe for more powerful stories of strength and redemption. Then came the knock. It was a Tuesday evening. Martha was making dinner. Real dinner in her real kitchen, with a real stove that worked. The smell of chicken and vegetables filled the house. Rose was setting the table. Leah was washing dishes from lunch. 3 sharp knocks on the door. Martha wiped her hands on her apron and walked to the door. She wasn't expecting anyone. Mr. Miller, the lawyer, had visited yesterday. Mrs. Patterson had stopped by that morning. She opened the door, and her whole world stopped. Daniel stood there, but he wasn't the same Daniel who had left. That Daniel had been confident, cruel, well-dressed. That Daniel had looked at her with cold eyes and a mocking smile. This Daniel looked broken. His clothes were wrinkled and dirty. He'd lost weight, a lot of weight. His face was covered in stubble. Dark circles sat under his eyes like bruises. He looked like he hadn't slept in weeks. "Martha," he said. His voice cracked. Martha's hand tightened on the doorframe. Behind her, she heard Rose gasp. Heard Leah's footsteps as she rushed to stand behind her mother. "What are you doing here?" Martha's voice was calm, steady. It surprised her. Daniel's eyes filled with tears. I made a mistake. A terrible mistake. Martha, please, I have nowhere else to go." He took a step forward. Martha held up her hand, and he stopped. "I lost everything," Daniel continued, his words tumbling out fast. "The gambling, it got worse. I lost all my money, lost my apartment, lost my job. I've been sleeping in my car for 2 weeks. Martha, please, I'm begging you, let me come home." Martha looked at him, really looked at him. 6 months ago, this moment would have broken her. 6 months ago, she might have believed him, might have felt sorry for him, might have let him back in because she didn't think she could survive alone. But that was 6 months ago. That was a different Martha. "This isn't your home," Martha said quietly. "But I'm your husband." Daniel's voice rose, desperate. "We have children together. You can't just turn me away." "You turned us away," Martha said. Her voice didn't shake, not even a little. "You looked at your daughters and said you were done with them, with us. Remember?" Daniel's face crumpled. "I was angry. I was stupid. I didn't mean it. Martha, please, I've changed. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "I'm sure you are," Martha said. "Sorry you lost your money. Sorry you have nowhere to go. But are you sorry for the years of gambling? For the times you made me feel small and worthless? For abandoning your daughters? Daniel reached out toward her. I'll make it up to you. I promise. Just let me in. Let me prove I've changed. Behind Martha, Rose started crying softly. Leah put her arm around her little sister. Martha thought about the past 6 months. She thought about the night she cried herself to sleep in that cold, broken house. She thought about her daughter's frightened faces. She thought about Daniel's cruel laugh as he'd thrown the deed at her feet. She thought about the hidden box, about Robert Grant's letter, about how Daniel had given away his own inheritance without even knowing it. And then she thought about who she was now, the strong woman who had rebuilt this house with her own hands, the mother who had created a safe, happy home for her daughters, the person who had discovered she didn't need Daniel at all. No, Martha said. What? Daniel looked shocked. No, Martha repeated, stronger this time. You're not coming in. This is our home now. Mine and my daughter's. You gave it to us, remember? You threw at me like garbage. Well, I turned that garbage into gold. Daniel's eyes narrowed. You can't keep me from my own house. My father left this place to me. Martha almost smiled. He still didn't know. He had no idea. Actually, Martha said, your father left this place to whoever found his hidden inheritance. I found it, Daniel. I found the box on the floorboards. I found the letter. I found the money and the deeds, and everything your father wanted kept secret from you. Daniel's face went white. What are you talking about? Your father knew you didn't care about this place, Martha continued. So he set up a test. Whoever cared enough to truly look at this house, to see its value, would inherit everything. You gave it away without a second thought, and now it's mine. Legally, completely, forever. She watched the realization hit him like a punch. His legs seemed to give out, and he grabbed the porch railing to stay standing. No, he whispered. No, that's not possible. It's very possible, Martha said. Mr. Miller, the lawyer in town, confirmed everything. When you gave me that deed, you signed away your father's entire estate. The house, the land, the money, all of it. Daniel looked like he might be sick. Martha, you don't understand. That money, I need it. I'm desperate. Please, we can share it. We can work this out. Martha felt something twist in her chest. Not sympathy, exactly. More like sadness. Sadness for who Daniel could have been. Sadness for the life they could have had if he'd been different. But mostly, she felt relief. Relief that she'd escaped. Relief that her daughters would grow up knowing their mother was strong. Relief that she'd never have to be small and scared again. I want you to leave now, Martha said gently but firmly. Don't come back. Don't try to contact us. Move on with your life, Daniel. Make better choices. But do it somewhere else. This story shows that even when life tries to break you, you can rise stronger than ever. If Martha's courage inspired you, share this video with someone who needs to hear it. And subscribe for more stories that touch the heart and lift the spirit. Daniel stood there for a long moment. Martha could see the emotions crossing his face. Rage, grief, disbelief. For a second, she thought he might yell, might try to force his way in. But then something in him broke. His shoulders sagged. Tears ran down his face. I really did lose everything, he whispered. Yes, Martha said. You did. The question is, what will you do now? Without another word, Daniel turned and walked away. Down the porch steps, down the path, into the darkness beyond the porch light. Martha watched until she couldn't see him anymore. Then she closed the door. She turned around. Rose and Leah stood there, holding each other, their eyes wide. Is he gone? Rose asked in a small voice. Yes, sweetie, Martha said. She knelt down and opened her arms. Both girls rushed into them, and Martha held them tight. He's gone. And we're okay. We're more than okay. We're home. That night, after the girls were asleep, Martha sat on her porch swing. The stars were out, thousands of them, glittering like diamonds scattered across black velvet. An owl hooted somewhere in the trees. The breeze was warm and smelled like Rose's flowers. Martha thought about the journey that had brought her here. The pain, the fear, the discovery. the transformation. She thought about Daniel's father, Robert Grant, and the gift he'd left for a stranger, the gift of a second chance. She thought about her daughters, safe and warm in their beds, in a house that was truly theirs. And she thought about herself, about the woman she'd been, scared, small, dependent, and the woman she'd become, strong, capable, free. Martha smiled and looked up at the stars. "Thank you," she whispered to the universe, to Robert Grant, to whatever force had guided her to find that metal box beneath the floorboards. She'd lost everything, her husband, her old life, her sense of security. But in the dust of that loss, she'd found something infinitely more valuable. She'd found herself. The farmhouse stood solid and beautiful around her, glowing with warm light from within. What Daniel had meant to destroy her would have become the foundation of her greatest triumph. Sometimes, Martha realized, the things that look like curses are actually blessings in disguise. Sometimes you have to lose everything to discover what you're truly made of. Sometimes the worst thing that ever happens to you becomes the best thing that ever happened to you. The old farmhouse had been meant as a joke, a final insult, a place for Martha to fail and prove Daniel right. Instead, it became her sanctuary, her strength, her new beginning. And as Martha sat there under the stars, she knew one thing for certain. She would never be broken again. She had risen from the dust, and nothing could knock her down now. Martha's story reminds us that our greatest trials can become our greatest triumphs. If this story moved you, share it with someone facing their own struggles, and subscribe so you never miss powerful stories of hope, resilience, and the courage to start again.